and my other class that I'm teaching. And I literally threw stuff together as I got here this morning. Come on, computer. One of these days. Work. 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 Oh, but there it goes. It only took it. How long have I been? This is going to be one of those things, y'all. Okay, so like I was saying, I've got this week through Friday done, built, well, except for the review on Thursday. I haven't done that yet. I ran out of time because, it was Mother's Day weekend and I went and spent time with my family. But I honestly don't know what we're doing next week. I won't be here Monday, so Monday's shot. If I do any kind of lecture, I'm literally going to have 3 days worth of time. That's it. So I don't know. I know my 7th period, they're like, well, we want to watch The Lion King because it's related to what we're talking about. I was like, well, honestly, it is, but there's copyright infringement. So I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do next week. Well, I mean, I could always hook up my Amazon Prime account and watch anything I want to, or bring my Fire Stick here from home. But yeah, I don't think administration would like it if I brought my Fire Stick to school. No, they're awesome. Watch anything you want to. It's awesome. So we're doing on Friday. If you were not here, we did fossil fuels. The grades that are in the grade book are through the nitrogen cycle, and I just double checked it, like not, but maybe 10 minutes ago to see if anybody had submitted something since I did your grades, like 10-ish yesterday morning. I did drop a daily grade. I don't think I made any mistakes. If you see anything that looks weird, just let me know. I'm human and it's the end of the year and I'm tired. We're all tired. Anyways, we're going to do renewable versus non-renewable resources today. So the stuff we talked about Friday, the oil, coal, natural gas, we're going to talk about again because that's the non-renewable sector. There'll be things that we didn't mention Friday that I'm going to mention today. But for today's opener, these green energies, these clean energies, the renewable sources, things like solar panels and wind, that kind of stuff, they're still dependent on non-renewable stuff. Why? Your green energy, your clean energy is still doused with non-renewable sources. Why? Why is solar, that bad grammar, I grammar bad. Why are solar and wind and the other clean energies not clean? It's not that.
We have to manufacture the solar panels and stuff.
And what do you need to be able to make the solar panels?
Factories.
Yeah, the fuels, the stuff we talked about Friday, you have to. And like I said, I'm throwing a bunch of solar panels on my house, so I'm not anti-green energy. Please do not misconstrue me with things that I'm about to say today, but they're still dependent specifically on oil, specifically, let alone the fact that you need to have the electricity to be able to run said factories, which is primarily run by coal in this country. One of the last things that we took a look at on Friday, if any of you were not here, is the fact that we will be running out of our fossil fuels according to the data, the projected information with our current consumption, which is skewing. It's skewing towards the renewable versions, but we're going to run out probably within your lifetime, according to projected data of oil, which means gasoline. Like I said, we're completely and totally addicted to our electrical grid. And our country is doused in oil. Or Not like you're pouring oil on somebody's head. I don't mean it like that. I mean, it's our production is dependent on oil and coal and natural gas. Okay, so today we're going to take a look at what we did again on Friday, just not the same stuff. And then what we would consider our green or cleaner energies. Although there's no such thing as clean energy except for the sun. That's the only one that is. Can't remember if I've got another bullet on here. No, I don't. Our natural resources, including fossil fuels, they can be solar. That's the beginning of all energy. We mentioned that on Friday. Wind is one that we are harnessing quite a bit. We all saw what happened when it got too cold with the wind farms in Texas. They froze. They weren't winterized. They had the wrong type of oil in them. We use different plants, corn, for ethanol that we put into gas, which actually makes the gas less efficient, but we're doing it anyways. Animals, we used to just use horsepower or ox power, cattle power. There are still countries that burn animal manure as a fuel source instead of wood, which is sort of gross, but it works. But yeah, fossil fuels too, that coal, that natural gas, and the oil that we're so dependent on. There are two major categories. Renewable, which means it's either infinite, like the sun, which technically isn't infinite because it's going to burn out too in 4 billion years-ish, but that's so far away it's infinite. Other renewable sources, things like wood, animal labor, things that can either be constantly harnessed or replaced quickly. Okay? And then non-renewable, which is what we were talking about Friday. There are other types we're going to talk about today. Yes, they should be open right here. Things that take a very long time to be able to replenish. In the case of fossil fuels, anywhere between 100 and 400 million years. You're literally going to take a chunk of coal and put it in the ground and grow a coal plant. It's not the way it works. Don't tempt you. Okay, you go ahead and try to plant coal and see how long it takes to have a coal tree grow, because it's not going to happen.
I'm planting money.
You planted money and had a money tree. Well,
I spent my money.
Oh, good Lord, Kaden. Do you realize I'm recording? You just so in. Ugh. Okay. Stop. All right. Renewable resources, like I said, they're either infinite. The sun, like I said, even though it's eventually going to red giant and white dwarf, for our purposes, it's infinite. Which means that the wind that it creates as it heats the surface of the earth is pretty much infinite. Now, wind doesn't blow all the time, and even though the sun is constantly shining, it could be nighttime for us, or it could be like it is today, and it's overcast. Other infinite sources would be the dams, like the Hoover Dam, hydroelectric, as long as the water stays in the liquid state on our planet. So technically, for our purposes, it's infinite, but not if we turn into Mars.
So if the Hoover Dam would break, that like destroy like entire.
Anything that's downstream is going to be inundated.
So how did they build it?
You know, that's a really good freaking
That's
question.
a huge thing.
It is. I've actually driven over it before. I know it was done back in the 50s?
Yes, like,
Ish.
how they.
But that's a good question. They had to dig, but you still have the water, you still have the dang river. I don't know. They had to have dammed it upstream to be able to do the massive project that was downstream. And I bet you there's documentaries about the Hoover Dam, because it's a engineering marvel. It really is. That they accomplished to do that. But yeah, if it busts, if it breaks,
Cause that's like isn't it like a really, really big river?
Uh-huh. Let me look it up, because I don't want to lie to you. Let's see, so, sorry if my music goes crazy. There it goes. Give me a second. Sorry, I was working on. Website. No, that's not what I'm looking for. What river does the Beaver Dam hold back? Here we go. It was originally known as Boulder Dam. I did not know that. I just learned something today. It holds back to Colorado. That's what I thought. And it forms Lake Mead on its backside. But yeah, if it does bust, anything that's downstream, which I have to look up what area is downstream of it, they're to say it politely.
So pretty much like they cut off that river system.
So they cut up, it's not necessarily the city, now it's for power. So the river is the Colorado River, and then it's Lake Mead that's on the backside because it's dammed, it's stopped, and so it's pulled up. But no, they allow the gates to open. That's what helps generate the electricity as it goes through the turbines. And we looked at the coal plant on, we looked at an image of a coal power plant, and it's the same concept. It's just not burning coal. It's the water that goes through the turbines that generates the electricity. But the spinning turbine is the same thing, whether it be a coal plant, a water plant, a nuclear plant, even a wind turbine. It's a turbine. It's the spinning of that generates. It's the friction that creates static electricity. Just like when you take a balloon and you rub it on your head and then you stick it on the wall. It's the electricity from the friction that is harnessed. So, anyways, solar, that giant nuclear bomb that's in the sky. That was a weird sound coming out of my computer. Pretty much infinite for our purposes because, like I said, about good 4 billion years worth of time that it's still going to burn. Was that my nail? Oh, I have a kid in ISS. Gosh darn it. My kid's doing silly things. What is this? Okay. Oh, I probably should have read that before I just deleted it. Oh well. It's all right. I'll go back when I have a chance. But solar, from our star, is considered unlimited. Yes, I know. Stars eventually die. We could have a black hole come through here and swallow us up, and we wouldn't even know what happened. But in general, solar is unlimited. It's just how are we going to harness it? Now, we've been harnessing solar power for forever. It's called life and plants. But with the sun shining on the surface of the earth, that uneven heating is what causes wind. And now with wind, it's also considered unlimited. The only problem is if it's not blowing. If it's not windy enough, then you're not going to spin said turbines. There's a reason why they put turbines where they do. They either put them offshore, or they put them in essentially Tornado Alley, a little west of us. So it's like Midlands and like Odessa, that area. It's just because there's a lot more, in general, wind that's blowing at the time. And like I said, I mean, we saw what happens a couple months ago. If they're not winterized, they will freeze. But both of these are considered infinite. Water, hydroelectric power. Just talked about the Hoover Dam. I should put a picture of that up here, but I didn't do it. Like I said, the water flows from higher to lower elevation through the gates of the dam and spins said turbines. Now, you still have to maintain these things. You have to maintain the wind turbines. You have to maintain the dams. I know with dams, there's an invasive type of like mussel, some type of shellfish that gets in there, and they like to, for whatever dumb reason, attach themselves to the part that allows the water to actually go through the dam. And if those things aren't chipped off, like removed, then the dam ceases. Turbines stop spinning. Geothermal. We don't use a lot of geothermal here. Iceland is. Iceland is a hot spot. They actually take the heat from hot springs and it pumps through the house, almost like the opposite of an air conditioner. I don't know if any of you have ever seen a real radiator in a house, like old school radiator. It's like metal, it's like great. And it pumps warm water through it, and that actually helps heat the house. That's the way that Iceland pretty much heats everything because they're on top of a volcano, which they just had one blow up not too long ago. I think it is still blowing up. So geothermal, as long as our core does not die, like Mars, is also considered infinite. We just don't use geothermal here. Not here. Ew! So these pumps, it's essentially a radiator. And you just don't really use geothermal heating in this country. At least if we do, I don't know where's doing it. The only place that I've seen a lot of geothermal activity is in Yellowstone. It's stinky. It's like quartz. It's sulfur. Biomass. Living things. Yeah, there's different eyelashes poking me in the eyeball. Anything that's living that we can harness to accomplish a feat, whether it be animal or plant. There's three major categories of biomass. Wood, obviously, burn it. Crops, specifically corn, for producing ethanol. It's an additive that we put into our gasoline. It actually does have a lot of negative effects on engines, but we do it anyways. There are some plants that use, or cars that use, what's it called? I don't know personally. Gasoline. I don't know what it's called. LPGs. Somebody asked me the other day, isn't there a guy that made a car that came off the water? I don't really think that that's all. Okay. I mean, hypothetically, yeah, great, but no, I don't think that actually ever happened. So anyways, and then the last one would be animals themselves. Some countries do use manure for various things. The cow patties, we burn them, use as fuel. Sure, it stinks, but it works. We use cow poo for fertilizer. It's a good fertilizer. We normally do not use horse. We definitely don't use human. We don't process seeds the way that the ruminants do. If you use human waste for fertilizer, you grow all different kinds of stuff. And here goes the question. I think almost all of us teachers are like, one day at a time. So Non-renewables just take too much time to be replenished. Renewables, like I said, they're not necessarily infinite, but well, some of them are infinite. But in the case of wood, yeah, I know it takes time to grow the tree back, but you can regrow the trees, and we do that. We talked about specifically fossil fuels Friday. Coal is the one that we have the largest reserves of that we know of. Yeah, I should know. Oil would run up first, followed by natural gas. Now, I say that if we find more reserves, that's all going to change. Excuse me, I needed to. I was supposed to rain for like 3 days. Maybe we'll wash up this course after haul it out of the air. Well, but I think it's supposed to rain for Wednesday. I'm just like, I'm sick and tired of feeling like my eyeballs are gonna pop out of my skull. Well, I got hair in the back of my head. Honestly, did not know that I was going to go to a horse after. Yeah. Of course not, but they're like softball size. They're green and they look like a brain. I don't know. They're toxic. I know that much. You try to eat it and like no. I don't know why they're called horse apples. No, they're toxic. It's like feeding a horse crab apple. No, they'll eat the side of the crab apple. They look like cherries. Or maybe you don't have crab apples. I don't know. I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I haven't ever seen crab apples in Texas. Actually, maybe as a kid growing up. All right. So, anyways, coal. We talked about this. Normally it is black in color. There's 4 different types of coal. We've already gone into the different types. We're going to do that again. They have different hardenesses and they do have different colors. Oil is the liquid, so coal is the solid fossil fuel. Oil is the liquid fossil fuel. We pull that out of the ground from specifically sandstone and limestone. We mentioned that on Friday. Natural gas is the gaseous fossil fuel. We got one of each state. There's no such thing, to my knowledge, as a plasma fossil fuel. That's a star. It's not anything. I don't think that exists. Natural gas is the cleanest of the 3. Coal is the dirtiest of the 3. We primarily use coal for our grid because it's abundant. Okay, it's cheap. Gives a lot of energy out. It's just dirty. It's dirty. Have you ever seen like coal miners before? Like they're covered head to toe and like not soot like fire soot. It's from actually pulling the coal out of the ground itself. The big issue with fossil fuels is when we do burn them to release the energy of the sun back out. Big blue. And we'll do pollution on Wednesday. I know for sure this is the last complete unit we're going to do. The global warming greenhouse gas, whatever you want to call this section. I said, I don't know what we're going to do next week. I have not figured that out yet. All right, so this is coal production. So millions of years ago, somewhere between 1 to 400 million years ago, before the dinosaurs, we had all these plants. The earth was really hot. It was really swampy. Okay? And all of these plants from the carbon, specifically the Pennsylvania period, where we find our coal, these plants died. Okay, they compacted over enough time. You started to have a chemical change occurring with these plants. And the carbon that was left over from the plants themselves which if I put glucose back on the board, makes up the bulk of plants. I'm not redrawing the molecule. The carbon from the plant tissue specifically, not the water. There's essentially 6 molecules of water in the glucose. But the carbon that's left over, it starts compacting, and under pressure and under heat, because of the rotting, it forms just pure carbon in the form of coal. And the other pure carbons that we have on the planet would be graphite. That's stuff that's your pencil lead. It's not really lead, it's carbon. And also diamonds. It's all just pure carbon. And then eventually, we get to the reserves, and then we pull it out of the rocks. And I don't know where all of the coal reserves are. I know we've got them in Antarctica. I know we've got them in Siberia. Now, natural gas and oil is a little bit different. We talked about this Friday. I just put these images up. This is marine life. This isn't land life. And so you've got all different kinds of critters that are swimming around in the ocean, and eventually they die, and then their bodies fall to the bottom of the ocean, and then those get compacted. So coal is specifically from plant material. Oil and natural gas is specifically from non-plant organisms. And algae is, we looked this up on Friday. Algae is like in the plant kingdom, but it's technically not a plant. It's like something in between a plant and a bacteria. It's like it has its own classification. But the same thing happens. You've got bodies that fall, you've got lots of time that passes, and then now we have to drill for these or frack for these, which is what caused the mild earthquakes not too terribly long ago. Nuclear, I didn't animate this one because there's not that much for me to animate. It is not smoke coming out of the stack. That is a cooling tower. It is water vapor. Now, sometimes things go bad with these, like Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island, and they can have leaks. Nuclear energy is actually fairly clean, to be honest with you, as long as it doesn't go badly. So, they don't blow up, they melt down. They don't explode. So, inside a nuclear reactor, which I didn't put the image up here, where the actual uranium is, and you have these rods, these sticks of uranium-238 that are suspended in a water bath. And as the uranium-238 is breaking down to become more stable because it's a radioactive particle, it gives off a fraction of energy. It's giving off helium nuclei that are slamming into uranium-238. It's just a chain reaction. It's almost like hitting a cue ball at like playing pool, and once it hit, they break off. That's your cue ball is the helium nuclei. So it heats up the water, makes steam. Steam is trapped in the pipes, and it spins those turbines. As long as you keep the reactor solvent, you don't have an issue.
So,
Death. Like, okay, so when Chernobyl broke down, they sent the techs in to try to stop it. And they got
so,
It's a good question. Like, you still can't. Well, Russia will let you in to see it because it's Russia. But you can't go to Chernobyl without express permission from the national government. People thought that it would just be like death and destruction and like nothing would be alive, and if it was, it had like 15 lives, 50 legs kind of stuff. That's not what happened. Life is flourishing. Oh yeah, no, nuclear power plants are all over the place. There's one that's just north of Texas A&M. I used to drive past it all the time. I mean, it's like I said, as long as the reactor is controlled, it's really not that big of a deal. It's when it gets out of whack and you have a meltdown that you've got the problems. And I know that the one in Pennsylvania, 3 Mile Island, that one almost went maybe a year or two before I was born. And that actually flew over the cooling towers like 2 weeks before it scared. Way back when I was still a pilot. Oh, my goodness, I hate going over that thing. All right, so without these things, I mean, if we go way back in time and didn't know any better, would humans survive? Yeah. We farm our own stuff and we build our own houses and we cultivate our own food and our animals and we would know any better. But our current human population, you take away our electricity and most people are going to go absolutely nuts. Like, most people do not know how to clean animals. They don't know how to fish. They don't know how to farm or garden, whatever you want to call it. They don't know how to do anything like old time, if you will. Everything is all now electric. You take away refrigeration, you have major issues with diabetics, which would affect my mother. I know now there's insulin that doesn't have to be refrigerated, but most of it's not that way. We're almost there. So I went and tried to get a little bit more up-to-date information with some of this. And that's lovely. Okay, so last year, this is last year's energy consumption in the state of Texas, according to ERCOT. Yep, I want to make sure that I was using the right thing. Last year, 46%, almost half of all of the energy that was produced and used in this state came from a combination of natural gas and oil. They lumped those two together. 23% was wind. So we're seeing a big uptick in both wind and solar. Solar is still budding, but that's going to be one of the biggest pushes. It's the biggest push to be able to satiate our electrical addiction is between solar and wind. 18% was coal, 11 was nuclear, and 2% was solar. Now I'm sure that there were some others like in between. This is what ERCOT told me. Now, we have a big need for an increase in our electricity. And this is, I believe this is also from, is this from ERCOT or no, this is US. This is not Texas, this is US. So countrywide. We use so much electricity and it's only going up and up and up for multiple reasons. We have more electric devices that we're dealing with. I don't know if any of you have an older home. If you have a house that was built in the 50s, unless it's been rewired, there's a good chance if you run the coffee pot and like the dishwasher or maybe the microwave in one of those, you start popping your breakers. And that's because back in the 50s, we didn't use the sheer amount of electricity that we do. I mean, electricians can fix it. It's expensive. Well, you need $3,500 to be able to fix issues like that. But well, it depends. Depends how big the house is. But our biggest push to be able to satiate our insane demand for electricity, 70% of it is between solar and wind. And it's slightly more solar than wind. It's according to the current push that we're doing. Like I said, I mean, you can't get rid of the fossil fuels. Although we're going to run out eventually because they're still needed to run these cleaner devices. You need the oil to allow the turbines to spin. You need the petroleum products to be able to create your solar panels, to be able to create the plastics. That's where plastic comes from. It's a byproduct of oil. Like I said, I'm not anti-green energy. I'm not saying go run tires anymore. But we are trying our best to let our current reserves go as long as we can, because once we find some new ones, y'all, when we run out, we run out. My computer is very much growling at me right now. So let me fix it. Sorry, those of you online. There we go. I really need to have my computer looked at because